Hi, this is a presentation called The Quest. This is the part on a cumulative case having to do with God's existence. We're going to start with cosmos, the origin of the universe. Philosophers have often said that the most deep question in philosophy is, why is there something rather than nothing? We all look up at the night sky and we can see the universe, at least parts of it. We see the starry sky and we go, gee, how'd that get here? Well, people have always wondered that. But for a long time, scientists and philosophers have both thought that the universe just has always been here. Bertrand Russell said in a famous debate that it's just a brute fact. Because it's always been here, it doesn't require an explanation or a cause or anything. 29, Edwin Hubble of the telescope fame started the ball rolling in pursuit of the origin of the universe because it became more and more clear over time that it came into existence about 13.7 billion years ago and has been expanding ever since. This is a big deal. This is called the Big Bang. In the Big Bang, all matter and energy and all space and time themselves came into existence. Now, how can this be? How did it get here? Well, the first answer that I was thinking of when I first heard about this was, if time came into existence at the Big Bang, there's no before. And if causation came into existence at the Big Bang, there's no cause of the universe, and that's it. And I heard people say things like that. But then philosophers said, well, there's a different kind of cause, more of a philosophical cause, a reason for, an explanation for, an originating force even, that is not necessarily a physical cause like we know in the universe. And it could exist outside of time. And philosophers of science and astrophysicists have been pursuing answers to how did it come into existence. One answer that is obvious is that there is some sort of external cause, that there are bubble universes that have been spawned either by one big mother universe or by other universes. Nobody knows why or how, and all kinds of speculations are there. This is at the cutting edge of string theory with the multiverse and world ensemble and things like that. But it all comes back to there is some transcendent cause, an external cause to the universe, which brought it into existence. There's also has also been a move, which is fairly old-fashioned now, called the oscillating universe or the cyclical universe. I call it the accordion universe because I can't say cyclical very well. And it just goes in and out. The idea is that now we are in the expansion phase after the Big Bang, and eventually it's going to slow down and then stop, and then collapse back in upon itself, which is called the Big Crunch. And then it will become a singularity again, and then it will bounce back, called the Big Bounce, and it will just go back and forth. And some people have said that this will happen forever, and has happened forever. And so we have an eternal universe again, actually. The third possibility is that it just popped into existence uncaused. There's no explanation. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It just came out of nothing without any originating cause whatsoever. Okay, so we have three possibilities here, and those are the ones that I know of. And this brings us to a little sidebar called inference to the best explanation. Whenever you have some sort of investigation that requires gathering evidence, you may be able to analyze that evidence in various ways and come up with various possibilities for explanation. This happens in detective work, this happens in science, this happens in history. And the idea is, here we have three possibilities. We want to figure out not what explanation we like the most, but the one that's the best explanation. And so we want to, reject two of them and keep one of them if possible. Okay, what kind of criteria would we use in order to figure these things? Well, here's a list that I made up myself based upon what I know. These are all very logical things that you would look at. You want evidential support for it. You obviously want rational support for it. An irrational option is not very good. Fairness, coverage of the evidence in breadth and depth, internal consistency, coherence with established facts, and plausibility. All those things need to be considered, and there may be some other things too, such as simplicity. Don't want to consider is we don't want to pick something that's only hypothetically possible but not the best explanation. That's what people do frequently. Well, it's possible that this happened. We want the best explanation. We don't want to pick just what we want to be true. I don't want to pick just what suits my existing worldview. I'm open to learning new things by the evidence. This is the empirical method. I don't want to pick what will benefit me the most. And I don't want to pick something that I don't know anything about. I mean, all this is all common sense. So we want to pick the best explanation. Now, when we apply that to our problem here in the universe, I want to look at the cyclical universe first, this accordion universe. It depends for its plausibility on the idea that the expansion that's happening now is going to slow down and then it's going to collapse. Some researchers at Harvard were trying to figure out how much it's slowing down right now. And when they did that, all they found out was that it is not slowing down, it's speeding up. In fact, it's speeding up at a great rate. And it looks like it's going to just keep going forever. And so that pretty much refutes the accordion theory. On top of that, if it ever did slow down and came back into a collapse state, it would not go back into a singularity. It would go back into a chaotic state filled with black holes and mess, and it would not be able to bounce again. And if it did bounce again, each time that it bounced, it would lose energy, and so it couldn't last forever. And it couldn't have come from the eternal past because if it did, it would have lost all of its energy an infinite amount of time ago. So this seems like a pretty bad possibility. Now, it's possible that somebody will come up with a fancy, proof in physics and reestablish this somehow. But right now, this doesn't look like it's very promising. The idea that the universe popped into existence out of nothing was always puzzling to me. Why would somebody say this? Well, one reason is because of quantum particles. The argument goes like this. Quantum particles have been found in the quantum vacuum. And they just come into existence out of nothing, and then they go back into nothingness. And maybe this is what happened to the universe. But the problem is that in quantum physics, these particles come out of what Bill Craig cleverly called a roiling sea of energy with a refined structure, a rich structure. Okay, well, that's not what happened at the Big Bang, because if all matter and energy were created before the Big Bang, there was no matter or energy, and there was no roiling sea of energy, and there was no time and there was no space to hold the quantum vacuum in. It was sheer nothingness. So remember this: nothingness has no properties, no attributes, no dispositional states, and no potentialities. Think about that. And it has no causal efficacy. That's the showstopper for this theory. Out of nothing, nothing comes. The most impossible thing in the world. And so if we go back to our three options, there's only one that we have. There are no strong arguments against it. It's the leading view in cosmology. It's actually possible, which is nice. It's down. And so to recap, we know for sure that the universe had a beginning. This is considered to be one of the most certain things in astrophysics and cosmology. The question is, how did it get here? There are three possibilities. The accordion universe, or it popped into existence out of nothing, or there's a transcendent cause. We can leave the transcendent cause's nature alone for now. We don't need it. We just can say it's a transcendent cause. It could be a mother universe. It could be a personal being. It doesn't matter for this argument right now. And I think that people who try to push this into being an argument for a personal God all by itself are just taking it, or just pushing it a little bit too far. And I don't want to do that because that just weakens the argument. And besides, this is a cumulative case. And in the cumulative case, we're going to look at four arguments. And we don't need to get personality out of this one because we get personality out of the others very easily. All we need to say here is that there's a transcendent cause. I consider this to be beyond reasonable doubt for the reasons that I've mentioned. I hope you'll listen to the